Good morning! Today is the thinning. Today I'm going to be cutting back a lot of the sprouts that came in because so many of my seeds germinated that I have way too many. They will crowd out their spaces and not grow as good as they otherwise might. I'm also going to be filling some pots with the soil so that I can transplant some of them. Some of them are quite big, like the yellow squash. So I'm going to transplant them into little pots to give to other people. And then I will go ahead and start thinning back some of the growth that has come in. A few things I won't thin just yet, like the marigolds, because the little sprouts are so tiny right now. And I also want to transplant some of those, and I don't want to do that just yet. I don't want to disturb the roots too soon. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing this morning. Okay, so it's been a little over a week since I planted all of the seeds, and you can see everything is coming up. Look at these beans. I love seeing when the little husk of the seed is still on it. It's watermelon. Get my radishes, onions, and those smaller things that you can't see as well, like this right here. That's marigold. I have marigold in each of the plots. Got Swiss chard, I think, spinach, lettuce. Get those peas, all those peas. The hardest thing for me about gardening is when all of your seeds come in and you plant more than one seed just in case they don't all germinate, and then you have to come in and thin the sprouts, which means coming in and cutting off these, and I'll be doing that later and I'll show how to do that. But I hate it so much. It's like killing them. You're just like, here, I didn't expect so many of the watermelon seeds. I didn't realize I dropped so many in that hole, but I'll have to cut away all but one so that each plant that's in that space, allotted space for that plant, can grow to its full potential. And if you have all of those plants in that one space, it will be too crowded. So you go in and you do thinning. Like right here, have more than one seed that came up. And also for my cucumbers. Look at my cucumbers. Gonna thin here. Okay, so as you can see, I've got some pots here. Got some hanging ones that I'm going to use for some of the vining, lighter vining plants. I'm going to transplant a few of the pea pods as well as maybe a cucumber. I'm not sure. So I'm going to use those and put those. I'm doing a container garden on the deck, which I will show a little bit of that as well. But right now, I'm going to be continuing to take dirt out of this garden because this is the one that's going to be for the potatoes. And the potatoes are just about ready to be planted, so I've got to get pretty far down in here before I can plant them. So I've got to get this dirt out, and I'll set the dirt aside because I want to use this nice mix of soil and compost and vermiculite. I want to use this to put back on top of the garden as the potatoes start to sprout. So I don't want to use all of this in other containers, but I do want to use some of it. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I will transplant a couple of things into these containers to grow, because I'm trying to increase the area that I'm growing food in. Like, this is nice, and this will actually, I know it looks small on camera, but it's actually pretty big. These are 4 by 4 and 10 inches deep, and so they each have like 16 square feet of growth in them, and you can grow a lot of food in that amount of space. But I want to have more space, and so that I can take advantage of being able to do that and just growing as much food as possible. And since I only wanted to have so many beds out here because I may have to put a fence around it, I decided I would have a few containers pots on my deck that will have stuff like lettuce and some herbs, and today I decided I'm going to have some peas and cucumbers possibly. So we'll just see. I'm going to try to grow as much as I can and see how it all turns out. Okay, so before I start doing the thinning, like I said, I'm going to transplant a squash. This is a yellow summer squash, and as you can see here, I did the seeds. We have three seeds that were able to germinate over here. Oh, there's 3 over here as well. But I'm going to take these 2 smaller ones over here, and I'm going to transplant them into this pot to give to my friend Wren for her birthday. Now, I know that she has a garden and she's already started transplants, but it's kind of nice to have something that someone you know has grown. So I'm going to get kind of far on the side of it. I'm going to bring the whole thing up like this, and you have to be very, very careful in doing this. And as you're lifting, sometimes you can sort of feel the root system, and it's a good idea to keep pushing past that a little to bring it up. Like I was able to feel roots that were going over a little further than just right underneath. So very gently loosen it. Now, as I have said several times on my description, that I am not a professional gardener, and there may be some really correct way to do this, but this is how I've always done it when I've had a garden and whenever I've wanted to save some of the extra plants that have come up. That's how I've always done it. Now, whenever you transplant something, you are causing some trauma to the plant, and it is a nice hot day, so I'm going to put some water around the roots, and I want to make sure I don't want to get any water on the leaves because that will attract too much sun to the leaves and it can burn them. But I do want to have water around the roots to protect them. And it's supposed to rain. It's been saying it was going to rain for a few days, but it hasn't. So I've been holding out on watering, so the soil is a little loose, which is kind of nice when you're getting the transplants out. You don't have to tug too much on the roots. Okay, so I just watered just this little area right here. And now I'm going to put these. I want to make this a little deeper. Put that down in here alongside this one. Try to keep them apart a little bit. Try and keep from putting too much of the these larger pieces of sticks, because this compost that we got was a mixture, and it had a wood compost. I'm not sure exactly what he called it. I can't remember, but it did have quite a bit of wood chips in it. I don't think I'll do that next time unless I find that it helps in some way, because one thing I've noticed when it rains, a lot of the wood chip stuff sort of stays on the surface while the compost and soil and everything sort of goes to the bottom. So that might actually, I don't know, work. I've never used it before, so I don't know, but it might actually work to my benefit to have that as a way to keep a little bit of moisture in the soil. Little ground cover, mulch, it's automatically in the soil. Alright, I'm going to put a little bit more dirt on here. That's weeds. Don't want that. Okay. And again, I'm going to water this, and I will put, since I'm transplanting this, I'm going to put this over in the shade to keep it from being too tremendously traumatized, and that will be ready to replant if they want to, and maybe let it grow a little bit more in this before transplanting it. But it'll work out. Oh, you know what I did? All that thing that I said was weeds, that was not weeds. I just realized. I'm straddling the area where I planted marigolds. Garden mistake. Well, it's a good thing that I have a lot of marigolds planted. I will just transplant some back into this area. Okay, so now I'm going to do a cucumber plant. This one has 3 in this spot. This one has 2. This one only has 1. This one has 2. So I'll probably just thin that, and I think I'm going to take this and transplant that one. Okay, so this is one that I've not been looking forward to. This is the watermelon garden, and I have basically planted, you can plant 1 watermelon plant per 2 square feet. So I have 1 plant in this 2-foot area, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. And that's marigolds, and over here is marigolds. And then behind you over there, can't see, it's tomato plants. So, a lot came in, and they're really beautiful, but I'm going to cut them back. So what you want to do is you want to find what looks like the biggest and strongest of the plants. To me, this one looks the biggest, and it also has the most growth coming out here. These others are much smaller and they don't really have as much. So I'm going to just snip, just toss them aside. Just feels so much like murder. Done. It's really simple. It doesn't disturb the roots like pulling them out would, and your plant will have enough space to grow and thrive. And I didn't transplant any because I don't have anywhere else to grow watermelon. So now you can see just 1 little plant in each of those sections. This is the bush beans, and they have 4 per square, and I think only this one and this one will have to be thinned. So, looking at this, I think I'm gonna cut that one. When they're big, it's a little easier to be careful. It's when they're really tiny and in little clusters, like this right here. This is cauliflower, and I will thin those back maybe in a couple of days, just to be careful not to cut them too much. And this one, gone. This one's taking its sweet time. So let's see. And you can see over here, got radishes and onions. Those onions were planted from onion sets. And I've got onions coming in right here. These are little red onions. And you can see that they're starting to come up. Those were planted from seed. And I've got some herbs coming in, finally. They take a little while. And this is lettuce. I need to thin that pretty soon. Got the peas. Got little flowers on my hot pepper. See it? There we go. More lettuce, spinach, Swiss chard, and kale. And I thinned back a zucchini to just 2 plants on this side of the garden, and then my yellow summer squash to just 2 on this side. Now you can see this one, this is the one that I had transplanted, took the one out. It's getting a little wilty compared to this one. but I put a lot of this mulch around it to keep the moisture in, and just keep an eye on it and see how it does. And it should be fine. And the potato garden, got to dig all this dirt out. And I've got a couple of pots here that are ready to do some transplants if I decide to do any more. I might do one of the peas, or maybe try to grow some lettuce in that purple one there. I don't know. Anyway, there's the garden, and that's how it's doing. I'm gonna go show you the container garden now on the This is where I've sat the transplants that I just did. We've got a pea, cucumber, another cucumber, and the 2 yellow squash that I'm going to give to my friend, as well as a cucumber that I'm going to give to her. That is a pool that Silas and Flo blew up, but they didn't quite get around to filling it up, and I think it's starting to deflate already. So I'm going to take you around here. This is the carport, don't look. And I've got some containers going here. I did have this plant that I had finally put into a pot that's been in a glass jar of water for a couple of years, and I finally put it out here, but I put it in full sun, and I think that was a mistake. You can see that's what happens when plants do not like to be in full sun. It was quite a shock to its system, even though it has been in a window during this time. Just the full sun outside, even in the cool weather that we've been having, was a little bit too much. So I moved it over here in the shade, and I'm hoping that I can save it. If not, I will have to ask my friend for another clipping, because I really like this, and it will grow and vine out and be really pretty. But I kind of killed it a little bit. Hopefully I can save it. But over here, it's a little bit of shade, as you can see, but not a whole lot. This is some lettuce. It's growing here. And each of these pots, I think I've got cilantro. I can't even remember what I put in them. And I don't have a little grid that I made for these. I just kind of did them on the fly one day. I had all these pots left over from plants that I used to have, and I thought I can grow something in there. And so I just grabbed the seeds and planted them, and we'll just see what they are. I'm pretty sure this might be basil, I don't know. But I'm going to be putting those other 3 containers out here on the porch. That's an earthworm. It is not currently in the earth, it's just leaning right now. Good morning. So, it rained. I'm really happy that it rained, because the garden, like, literally just like exploded overnight. It's still raining right now. But the only thing that sucks about that is that we were planning on going to the river today, and that was when I was going to give my friend her transplants. But the weather changes around here so extremely. Like, it's chilly and raining right now, and it could be 80 degrees and sunny later. So you just never know. We'll see. But let me just show you what the garden looks like, all nice and wet, and the difference between yesterday and today. Maybe. Look at that. So this is the one from yesterday where I had transplanted the ones that were next to it, and it is literally a ½ an inch taller just in one night. The growth on these since yesterday is amazing. Like, I can't even believe it. Look, there's Jackson. He didn't want to come outside because it was raining, but now he's interested in what I'm doing. Hi, Jackson. Hi. You want to come outside? Jackson doesn't like the rain. These are the potatoes that I'll be planting. I set and let them sprout. As you can see, they start to sprout, and then you cut them up into pieces. And supposedly each piece needs to have an eye on it, but this one doesn't. So some of them might not come in. They're about ready. They're pretty dry. I'll let them sit for another day or two before I plant them. and cross my fingers that this works out. I did this before. I have planted potatoes before, so it has worked out for me in the past, but it wasn't potatoes that I had cut up myself. It was potatoes that a friend of mine had cut up, and so hopefully my process is as effective as hers was. So we'll just see. Okay, so today I'm going to be planting the sprouted potatoes. I have already removed all but a thin layer of the soil from this box here. I'm a little sweaty already. I've moved all that soil, as well as the soil that was on the tarp over there where we had the compost delivered. It has been sitting here far too long. As you can see what it did to the grass. And it's been needing to be done, and I've been putting it off. But since I knew I was going to be moving a lot of dirt today, I thought I would go ahead and get that done. I think I did 5 wheelbarrows full. So what I'm going to do with the potatoes, I'm going to put about 4 per square foot and then cover them up. Now I'm not really sure if I got my potatoes sprouted quite enough. This is a sprouted potato. I don't even know where the camera is. Focus. And then some of them just kind of did that. They just got a little tiny spot. I'm pretty sure that will still work. And then some of them just have the eyes, but didn't really get any sprouting. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. So I'm going to put, like I said, about 4. I'm going to try to put the ones that have the most evidence of sprouting, kind of space those out a little more evenly. Try not to put them all together in case those are the only ones that do end up growing plants. So I'm going to do that here. I'm putting the sprout up. So like I said, I'm going to put about 4 per square foot. And since I don't have my grid, I just have to eyeball it, which is totally fine with me. So it's basically 8 across this way. Okay, as you can see, I had a lot more than just 4 per square foot, but I went ahead and put all of them in just in case some of them don't sprout, and because some of them may end up rotting. I don't know, we'll see. I know that there are quite a few that have sprouts, and if those are the only ones that grow, the next thing I need to do is cover them with just a little bit of the mix here. This is the mix that has the compost and vermiculite and what's the other thing? Peat moss. And that's a really nice blend to help grow vegetables in a square foot garden. Okay, so it's just loosely covered, and what I'll do as the plants start to grow up, you just cover it again, and you just continue to cover the plants as they come up, because the roots will grow down, and that will be the potatoes, and the leafy growth will come up. I just saw a really big dragonfly. I don't know where it went. So anyway, that's pretty much it for today. I am wore out between my walk this morning and going back and forth, the heavy load of dirt. I am done. This is probably the worst idea I've had in a really long time.